Good morning. I'm going to be giving my presentation on the longfin inshore squid. This is a picture of the beautiful organism. You can tell right away that there are some really cool things going on with their skin, which we're going to talk about. They have very interesting eyes, which hopefully I will also mention, and we're going to just go through what makes this organism interesting and how it ties into the different things we've learned about in biology this year. So the first thing I want to talk about is actually the squid's embryo. This is what an embryo of a 10-day-old squid looks like. So this is a very recently fertilized egg, right? And you can see that after 10 days, there's already a lot of characteristics that have been forming in this squid. You can already see where their eyes will be. You can see that they even already have suckers on each of their arms. So obviously that tells us that these squid embryos are going to develop very quickly. So what is the importance of looking at embryos? Why do we do this? Embryos are one of our evidences of evolution. So by comparing the similarities we see between embryos, it can show the relatedness of different organisms. So even though this embryo still has a bit of time to develop, you can see that a lot of its body parts are still forming in this embryonic stage. If you were to compare a squid embryo and a cuttlefish embryo or a octopus embryo, you're going to see a lot of similarities between them because they are in the same class. Okay, another thing that kind of has to do with evolution are some of the adaptations that are found in these awesome squids. The first adaptation I want to talk about are the beautiful cells that are found in their skin. So if we go back to that first picture, you can see all those beautiful little specks in their skin. Those are special cells called chromatophores. Chromatophores are pigment cells that are in the upper layer of the squid's skin. Each of these cells has muscle fibers that are attached to the cells that can cause them to expand and shrink back down, to get bigger and shrink back down. And what this allows the squid to do is change colors. And the purpose of changing colors is seen through natural selection. Because squids are able to change colors, it makes them more likely to be able to survive, because changing colors allows them to blend in to find prey and also to scare away potential predators because of being able to change colors. The next adaptation I want to talk about is how cephalopods, which is the class of these organisms, it includes the squids, the cuttlefish, the octopi, they have a specialized organ that is called the ink sac that secretes and creates this dark black ink. And when the squid feels threatened, they can actually propel that ink out of their siphon, and it will confuse predators to give them a chance to get away. So the first squid that had this adaptation was probably more likely to survive and reproduce, so it continued to be passed to the next generation because it's an advantageous mutation. The next thing I want to talk about is the number of chromosomes that squids have. Squids have 46 chromosomes, and that should make you think, oh my gosh, we have 46 chromosomes. So squids have the same chromosome numbers as humans, which is pretty crazy. Octopus have 30 chromosomes. So you can see that an octopus and a squid are clearly different species because they have different chromosome numbers. The next thing I would like to talk about with the squid would be their unique body part. The unique body part I want to focus on is their beak. So at the base of their arms and their tentacles, they have a beak, which is their mouth, and its beak really looks like a parrot's. It looks like a parrot's beak. and it has a top and it has a bottom, and they're surrounded by muscles at the base, and it opens and closes and allows them to eat. That beak is made of 4 organic materials. It is made of protein, it is made of chitin, it is made of water, and it is made of pigment. So let's start by talking about protein. It is made partially of protein. The protein is found more at the tip of the beak, and it is going to provide strength to that beak so that it can really break into things that they're eating. Proteins, monomers, are called amino acids. So the building blocks of the protein are amino acids, and the order of those amino acids determines the proteins. This beak is also made of a molecule called chitin. Chitin is actually a polysaccharide. It's a carbohydrate. It's a complex carb, and it is found at the base of the beak. It's going to be a little bit more flexible than the protein would be. It is a carbohydrate, so it's a complex carb, which means it's made of smaller carbohydrates, which are called monosaccharides. The monosaccharide that makes chitin is called aminoglucose. Next, we're going to talk about the role of a squid in the food web. Squids are carnivorous, which means that squids only eat animals. They do not eat plants. They can be a primary consumer because sometimes they are eating just the plankton, which are herbivores. And they can also be a secondary consumer because sometimes they eat fish, and fish would be a primary. Squids are not apex predators because there are some things that will eat squids, such as us, sharks, large birds, will all eat squids. So that's kind of where they fit into the food web. It's a little bit of their niche. Remember, niche is the sum of all of the resources that a species uses and also how it contributes to the environment. So this is kind of talking about the food it uses. We'll talk about its habitat in a couple slides. The next thing I want to discuss is how humans have impacted squids. One of the major ways that we impact squids is by eating them. In 2021, it was totaled 23.4 million pounds of squid was being fished by humans, and it was valued at $33.4 million. So humans do eat quite a bit of squid. So that's one way that we're directly impacting them. Another way we impact them is just any type of pollution found in the ocean will affect the squids. It's either going to affect the things that they eat or it will affect the squids directly. Now let's talk about where you can find this specific species of squid. The longfin inshore squid are found in the Atlantic Ocean, ranging from Newfoundland, which is way north of Florida, and Venezuela, which is way south of Florida. I've personally found them when I've been in Florida. The adult squids generally stay near the surface of the water at night, but then they dive a little bit deeper down into the water during the day. And that kind of makes sense. During the nighttime, they're less visible to birds. They can go a little bit higher up and do some fishing up towards the surface, but during the nighttime, they're more visible, so they go a little bit further down. So that kind of sums up their niche a little bit. Talked about where they fit into the food web, talked about their trophic levels, talked about how humans impact them, and where they're found in the world. The last thing we need to talk about is any potential pathogens that can affect squid. One thing that can make a squid sick is actually a type of parasitic worm. This parasitic worm is called the aniscus worm. It is a round worm that actually lives in the body cavity of the worm. It's not often deadly to the squid, but it can affect their health, especially with their muscles. The larva of this worm will actually burrow into the muscle tissue of the squid, which can cause muscle fatigue. So it can kind of wear out their muscles and make them less efficient in their movement. Because this is caused by a worm, it is caused by a roundworm, which are scientifically known as nematodes. They are actually an animal, and we know that all animals have eukaryotic cells. So this Aniscus pathogen has eukaryotic cells, meaning they would have a nucleus. And then the last question we have to answer about it is this zoonotic? Could this be passed from a squid to a human? And the answer is yes. If a human consumes a squid that is raw or undercooked in any way, then you could eat some of the larvae that have burrowed into the squid's muscles, and then those larvae can be passed into you. It causes a disease called aniscasiasis, which normally have symptoms of abdominal pain, your tummy's gonna hurt, nausea, vomiting, and you can find blood in the stool. So hopefully that helps you guys know a little bit more about squids and their role in the ecosystem. These are all of my sources where I found my information. And then I went and took that information, I learned all about it and put it into my own words so that I could present that information to you, which is what I want you to be doing, okay? Please, please, please do not just pull up a website and start reading off of it, because it'll be very obvious and it's just not going to sound natural. It's not going to be a good presentation. You can do interesting things in your video too. If you want to include additional stuff other than the things that I've talked about, feel free to. If you decide to do the extra credit and you make the model, you could show off the model as part of your video. I am so excited to watch your videos and see the creative, unique things that you guys are going to do to incorporate into them. I hope you have a great day, and I hope this helps you guys in the creation of your projects. Thanks.